They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states. They're going to have to, the Congress does give, the Constitution gives Congress power over federal elections. I don't think they can redistrict, but they're things they go do. They're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do it. And they may have to expand the court to 13 members. Any of those things in isolation, I would be skeptical about. I would be cautious about. I would say, well, I don't know if that's the greatest idea in the world. You're opening Pandora's box, or all kinds of things. If you want to save democracy, I think you got to do all of those things, because we just are moving further and further away from being anything close to democracy.
The thing about democracy is like, okay, so essentially what they're saying and what they have been saying is we need to kill democracy in order to save it because it's not serving us in the way we want. And if you sub out democracy, whenever they're talking about democracy, for our power, Democrat power, everything makes sense. It's like we need to do whatever we can to retain power at all costs. And I think what really scares them is they see the polls. They see the lack of traction. They see how, as you just pointed out, young people are really turned off by this party and are headed in a different direction. They see this MAGA revolution and they're afraid that if they don't do something drastic, they're never going to get back in there.
All right, guys, a big day at the White House today. Tim Cook, or as the president likes to call him, Tim Apple. He was at the White House yesterday kissing some serious butt. And I mean, I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but I will give the Apple government relations team some kudos for how they handled this thing. Textbook meeting with Trump there, major investment by Apple, doing and saying all the right things. Plus, a lot of speculation that Putin and Trump are now going to meet after that meeting with Witkoff yesterday in Putin. Where, when, and how. It's going to be like Professor Plum in the library with the candlestick, Trump and Putin. My guest, Geneva, next Friday. That's just my take. We'll see what the panel thinks in a minute. Tomorrow, by the way, big end to the week. Tyler Pager for the New York Times. I know you're like, why are you having something from the New York Times on your show? Well, he's part of the team that wrote that brand new book on Biden's decline. So we're going to break that all down. Plus, Ken Cuccinelli, the chairman of the Election Transparency Initiative, with the latest on redistricting and everything that's going on there. The president today calling for the census to, guess what, only count people in the country legally. Imagine that. We'll break it all down with Ken Cuccinelli, former Virginia Attorney General. And if you have time, not just for those folks watching on YouTube and Rumble and X, go over to Apple and Spotify. Give me a 5-star review, because that's how I make money. And I'm just out there panhandling most of the day. So I need your help. Give us a 5-star review. All right, before I bring in the panel, I want to tell you, if you've been watching the show a long time, you know how much I enjoy a good night's sleep. And I've been doing a lot of things to get better night's sleep, because that's the crux of wellness. You cannot be on a journey to wellness without a good night's sleep. And I found another big advantage. I switched over to Boll Branch sheets. Oh my goodness. These things are like, when you go to a really nice hotel, or you sneak into a hotel, that's generally what I'm doing, and you get into one of those and you're like, this is just so comfortable, the sheets and everything. Those are Boll Branch sheets. These are unbelievable. It's the finest 100% organic cotton. It's breathable, it's durable. I don't even know what the number is, like how many thread. I don't care. These things are unbelievable. I threw out the old pair, literally threw out the old pair, and I'm one of these people, like I got one pair that I put on, the other one goes in the wash. My wife said to me, order another pair. And like a good husband, I did what I was told. I ordered another pair of Boll Branch sheets because they are that comfortable. They are that good. I don't want to be without them. That's how big of a deal this thing is. You have a 30-day warranty or money back guarantee, whatever you want to call it. So if you don't like them, you don't think I was telling the truth, they'll give you your money back. These things are unbelievably soft and breathable. I love them. So if you want the best sheets that you've ever had in your life, go to bollandbranch.com. It's BOLLAND branch.com/Spicer. You have to do it that way. There's no special code. It literally has to be the URL. So bollandbranch.com/Spicer. You get 15% off and free shipping. Holy smokes. You're welcome. bollandbranch.com/Spicer will get you 15% off the best pair of sheets you've ever owned. And before I get to the panel, it's a great all-star panel today, but one of my all-star friends right now is a guy named Leo Grillo. If you're a longtime watcher of the show, you know Leo. He is the founder of Delta Rescue. It all started with one Doberman that he found on the side of the road, and it became a lifelong mission to help all sorts of animals, dogs, cats, horses. who have been abused, malnutrition, mistreated, get the veterinary care, whatever. It's the world's largest no-kill sanctuary, not shelter. They're not looking to adopt any of these pets. What Delta Rescue does is unbelievable. If you're a dog lover, cat lover, horse lover, animal lover, go to deltarescue.org. Check out the amazing work that they are doing. I have made a personal contribution. That's how much I was moved by the work that Leo Grillo and the folks at Delta Rescue are doing. They don't have any USAID subscriptions, political pro, none of that. It's all donations from people like me and you. If you're an animal lover, please go to deltarescue.org and support the great work that they are doing for these animals. And you will be so impressed with what they're doing. deltarescue.org. Join me in making a personal contribution. And while you're there, click that estate planning kit and see if you can help them make this an enduring mission. All right, without further ado, our all-star panel is in the house, ready to go. Our correspondent from Pennsylvania, the gentleman who is the host of the Chris DeGaulle Show, none other than Chris DeGaulle himself. The gentlelady from Boston, the host of the Grace Curley Show on WRKO 680 AM, the writer for the Boston Herald, and my Red Sox aficionado correspondent, Miss Grace Curley. Great to see you. And new to the panel, just drafted in the first round of the expansion team draft, Kay Smythe-Hill. Kay, thanks for coming, and I'm so excited to see you as part of the team. What part of the country can you cover for the show?
I mean, if you ever want someone to drag California, I lived there for a long time, so I'm always here to do that. But I live in rural North Carolina now on my little farm where we also have probably rescued far too many animals, but that's what I'm here for. So
yeah, the accent tipped it. I was like, that sounds to me very northern North Carolina. So I picked it up real quick. I'm very good with that kind of stuff. And I'll be excited later to talk about that governor's race. That Senate race there. That's going to be a big one. But I want to start off by talking about this big announcement yesterday from Tim Cook and Apple at the White House. Let me play a clip for you and show you what I'm talking about.
To make 19 billion chips for Apple in 24 factories across 12 different states. Second, we're committed to buying American-made advanced rare earth magnets developed by MP Materials, which will become part of Apple's devices shipped around the world. MP is the only fully integrated rare earth producer in the United States, and with this partnership, they'll be significantly expanding their flagship facility in Fort Worth, Texas. We're also thrilled to work together on a cutting-edge rare earth recycling line in Mountain Pass, California. And third, in Kentucky, we've worked with our partners at Corning to build the world's largest and most advanced smartphone glass production line. And I'm pleased to announce that very soon, this is for the first time ever, every single new iPhone and every single new Apple Watch sold anywhere in the world will contain cover glass made in Kentucky. In addition to the American manufacturing program, we're also significantly growing our investments in AI, including expanding data center capacity in North Carolina, in Nevada, in Iowa, in Arizona, and Oregon. So we're going to keep making investments right here in America. We're going to keep hiring in America. And we're going to keep building technologies at the heart of our products right here in America.
Hey, Smythe, you mentioned North Carolina, Tim Cook there announcing expansion into several states, including North Carolina. I thought that this meeting was pitch perfect, right? This guy comes in and talks about investment in America, rare earth minerals, making glass in America, here's what we're going to do. And I don't think in any other presidency this would have been a big deal. I looked up this morning, no coverage of this, no discussion, but it is because of President Trump and his policies that we are now forcing these companies to come back and build here in America.
Well, yeah, I think this is a 3-4 part thing. I think most of it's good. I don't love data centers and AI, but that is my absolute personal bias. I love that it's going to create jobs. I love that it's going to expand industry in the US. I just try to avoid, my whole job is about trying to figure out how to avoid the apocalypse. And I don't like the direction AI is going in right now, but there's still hope. But no, one, absolutely, this is completely all Trump. This is completely down to his policies, and I'm absolutely here for it. I think that this is genius. I think reinvesting in America is probably the first thing we needed to do to kind of knock us off that track that we were on that really saw us heading in the direction of somewhere like where I'm from, in the UK, which is basically a failed state now because they don't make anything, they don't produce anything, they don't do anything to compete with the rest of the world, therefore rendering them pretty much irrelevant. So I like that he's making us relevant. I love that this is going to make us hyper competitive against places like China and most of the rest of the world that doesn't want to invest in rare earth mineral mining. I also weirdly had a conversation yesterday with my doctor of all people about the fact that there's huge lithium deposits in, I think it's the Salton Sea. You can fact check me on that. But I love the fact that we're now reusing these places that have essentially turned into ghost towns. Like the Salton Sea is no longer the cool hip place that like your Brian Wilsons of the Beach Boys used to hang out back in the day. It's just a smelly little dirt patch in the middle of the desert. So I love that these places are going to get a revamp, especially these places that really need investment in the local communities to start boosting and basically fighting against the tyranny that I think Gavin Newsom has perpetuated. And the whole green energy movement and the green movement has, really manipulated people into thinking they're good, but they're actually just terrible for the economy. I also just really enjoy calling people like Tim Apple. I think that's so funny. And we need more funny, guys. Do we not need more funny? We've got Jeff Amazon as well. That's another one of my favorite ones. So I like it. I don't love AI. I don't love the way that data centers run right now. There are some issues with how they impact like local communities, but overall, this is fantastic. And I think it's really going to set us up to be a leading nation again, because we were off track the last 4 years, guys. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, I did. Chris DeGaulle, I give kudos. Maybe Tim Apple should get him himself, but I feel like the government relations team there, like when you heard everything he said, it was sort of like someone had said, if you say this, the president will like it. If you say this, the president will like it. He literally presented him a gift of this, example of the glass and said, this was made by a former Marine. Like he literally hit every one of the key notes when talking and meeting with President Trump. And I feel like finally somebody got the memo how to actually have a successful meeting with the guy.
Yeah, and it's very, very clear that being in his sphere of influence is imperative now if you're going to be a successful organization. It's funny, these guys, as you well remember, when you hit the White House with him in the first term, it was not all that cool to be caught in the White House, and you certainly felt no obligation to go there and pay homage or respect or stand next to this president. In fact, your corporate edict and all of your minions in your companies like Apple at the time probably said, don't you dare. And I know many in corporate America, as I understood it in the first term of Trump, wouldn't set foot in the White House and their employees would go rogue if they tried. Now you see everybody from Roger Goodell to Tim Apple standing there waiting for the president's blessing. And I'm struck at the imagery of these people who wouldn't set foot near Trump a couple of terms ago are now there. One other thing that I noticed Tim Cook said as he ticked off the list of states they're expanding, with the exception of Oregon, I think. Did you notice that all of them are red states?
That's good point. Good point. Grace Curley, to that point, and I know this sounds simple, but it's actually something that you probably, I don't know if you picked up as well. But to Chris DeGaulle's point, during the first term, people literally were like, I am with you on the policy, but I cannot show up there, right? And I think about it from your neck of the woods. I remember the Red Sox literally within that first term won a World Series and were like, we're not going down. Alex Cora, the manager of the team, was very concerned about some of the president's comments on Puerto Rico. And then the other day, they're all walking through the Oval Office, shaking his hand, getting excited, going on a huge 10-game winning streak. But like, it's not just corporate. It's now cool to be seen with Donald Trump and at the White House.
Yeah, and it's a better decision financially for these companies as well. And I was thinking about exactly what Chris said. I was thinking today, wow, this is something that in the first term you'd be chastised for. The New York Times would be writing hit pieces on Tim Cook and how his employees are going to walk out. There would be protests. And so I was trying to figure out, like, what's the difference now? And I think the difference is that Trump has made it very clear to these companies and to anyone who wants to virtue signal against him in the media is that you can do that, but you are going to pay for it. Like it is going to come at a price. And what I mean by that and I think it's a brilliant move, is what he did with these universities. They all want to grandstand about how men and women can all compete together and this and that. And Trump said, that's fine. If you believe that, that's fine, but you're not going to get federal funding. And so then they had to bend the knee. Then they had to, show how actually they didn't really believe any of this stuff. They were just doing it to appease the mob. And it cost them financially until they came to the table. So now you have people who are weighing their options. They're saying, okay, I can either, hate Donald Trump and tell all these little, angry radical leftists that he's orange man's bad and I'm not going to go meet with him, but he's probably going to make it a painful financial decision for me. Or I can go with the oldest adage in the book, which is you get more fleas with honey than you do with vinegar. And I can show up there and I can play ball with this guy and I can see how it goes. And there's not the same kind of backlash because all of these other outlets and companies are kind of doing the same thing. They're like, I also don't want to have to put my money where my mouth is. And so you have this incredible change. And it's because in the second administration, and this is no shade to the first administration, John, because I know that's your alma mater, but
no. Shade required. Go.
The second administration came in a lot more aggressively. They're like, we're not just going to tell you what we believe, but if you want to stand in the way of this agenda that 77 million people voted for, that's fine, but we're not going to pay for it. We're not going to coddle you. We're not going to stand for it. And so they've really set up this dynamic where you have the Tim Apples of the world who have to make a choice. Do I want to go against this guy? He's a better friend than he is an enemy. And anyone who knows Trump can tell you that.
And may I just jump in and say, on Grace's point, here's what I also think this provides for these CEOs like Tim Apple and others. I knew some CEOs who told me that their employees, a lot of the woke Gen Z types, there was insurrection, if a CEO would be caught at that White House in the first term. I think that this gives CEOs in the country cover to now say, we're done. I think the Sydney Sweeney story is another example of this. We're done. We're not bending anymore to woke. We're done. I'm taking the reins back. The inmates are no longer running the asylum. I'd like to believe that corporate America is now going to become orderly and not political again. They're going to do business instead of politics first.
Well, you know what? But that's the key point that you just said, Chris, is the issue. The CEO said, I can side with some of my woke employees, or I've got an administration that wants to actually allow us to do business, that is going to be more business friendly, help us make profits. And, eventually we're at Apple and our job is to sell more phones, to sell more watches, to sell more computers. And I've got an administration that wants us to help grow here, to prosper here. Maybe that makes more sense than sucking up to a bunch of woke DEI folks. But Kay, Grace kind of talked about, where we are now. And maybe I'm getting too far in front of myself, but there was something that happened this week about the future that really caught my eye, didn't get a lot of attention. And I was excited to get you guys your take on this. The president floated a potential ticket of J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. Okay, this to me was the first time, and no one, and there's a lot of tells that have gone around about how a lot of people thought Marco might challenge J.D., but let me play for you what the president said, and then I want Kay, give me your initial reaction to what you think about a Vance-Rubio ticket. Take a listen.
Trump, nice to see you got off the roof all right.
Yeah.
You said this morning that you probably won't be running for a third term. This weekend, Secretary of State Rubio said that he thought J.D. Vance would be a great nominee. You could clear the entire Republican field right now. Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with J.D. in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
Okay, so Kay, just give me your reaction. So let's just say, hypothetically, JD and Marco Rubio sit down and say, peanut butter and chocolate taste great together. That's my Reese's, in case anyone thought there was some Sydney Sweeney, eugenetics, whatever. But anyway, so would you get excited about a Vance-Rubio ticket?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it has to be J.D. Vance. Like, that's, again, my bias. But I think that he is not just representative of pretty much every single demographic in America, but he is literally the definition of the American dream. And I think that he has to be the nominee. That's, again, it's my bias. There might be a lot of people out there who know more than me. I don't know. But for me and the people that I surround myself with out here in, you know, sort of like real America, rural America, it has to be JD Vance. He speaks to the people. He's such a leader, guys. And like, to go back to what we were just talking about, like all the CEOs and the leadership saying, yeah, we're not going to let the inmates run the asylum anymore. I thought that was brilliant. I think that it's not just great from like a business and from like a political perspective in terms of what it means for the country moving forward, but I think it shows a growth in our overall sort of like macro psychology as a nation, where we lived through 4 years that nearly saw us destroyed. We were manipulated in the COVID-19 pandemic to the point that we lost all trust in the Democrats. We've seen what happens when they run these blue states and how destroyed they get, and just how normalized the lying is. Like, there is absolutely no trust on that side of the political spectrum anymore. And now we've had less than a year of Trump and JD Vance, and we've had, you know, the best few months that we've had as a nation since the last administration. And I think that moving forward, to really put us, like, everyone in America, there seems to be this, I don't know, maybe it's just my demographic and the people that I'm surrounded by, but there seems to be this sort of ignorance to how unstable the rest of the world is and how angry the rest of the world is, especially when you get pretty much anyone from anywhere else in the world. When they come to America, they realize that it's absolutely amazing. There are people that absolutely hate us for that. And so I think having someone like JD Vance, who's not just intellectually one of the greatest leaders that we've ever had as, you know, as a young mind in this country, but to have someone like Marco Rubio, who will, you know, pardon my turn of phrase here, this might sound a bit graphic, but he will like kill and eat anyone who gets in his way at this point in the best way possible. I think having that sort of joint leadership, not only does it elevate the position of the vice president out of this, almost, you know, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a ceremonial kind of role where, you know, for a long time, especially under the last administration, it was just kind of like this person who stands there and goes, and doesn't really do anything. But it really elevates that role to a position of leadership where we can see the succession moving forward. And so, yeah, we could get another 16 years of like Trump, MAGA, Republican leadership, but with minds that will revolutionize this country in a way that all of us are going to look back on. And we're going to tell our kids and our grandkids, yeah, we lived through that. It saved us. It kept this nation going when we nearly collapsed into a one world government. And everyone thinks I'm like super hyperbolic when I say stuff like this. This is what I do for a living. Like, I track like human behavior and trends to try and mitigate the apocalypse. And those two as a ticket, absolutely. I think JD Vance has to be the leader. I think Marco Rubio could pretty much do whatever he wants within any future administration at this point, and it's going to be good for the country. So if he wants that role, give it to him. I'm here for it. I love this. But again, I'm not from this country, guys. So tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm way off base.
No, I have chills. I have chills. You just got me all psyched up.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Because I'm psyched. I think this would be so cool. I'd love to live through this. I think that this is such a gift, right? Like, again.
I think that J.D. Vance gave, in my view, early on, maybe the most important speech I've ever heard any modern politician give at the Munich Security Conference a few months ago, when he spoke to all of Europe very specifically and talked about the importance of free speech and the First Amendment and how to treat your people that you're tasked with governing. And I know back here at home, it was met with a bunch of snide chiding from the likes of the New York Times. How dare he go to Europe and tell them how they ought to govern? But he was speaking globally to people everywhere, not just here in the United States, but to free people everywhere. You should expect more from your leaders. Kay couldn't be more right. He is a mantle carrier. What's also impressive about JD is he's not a show pony. He really does go to work. He's not out there yammering all the time. In fact, sometimes in the most critical moments, I wonder, where is he? And then I realize he's working the phones. He's on Capitol Hill. He's talking to his colleagues. He works. He doesn't just talk. He's both. And to Rubio, her point is absolutely, he's surgical. He's as tough as he's ever been. Yeah, it would be a fantastic pair.
Grace?
I would love it. I remember watching J.D. Vance in the debate with Tim Walz, and I remember the moment where he was getting fact-checked about the app that was basically importing illegal aliens under Joe Biden. And Margaret Brennan and Nora O'Donnell were trying to dismiss what he was saying in the typical media fashion of like, well, actually, that's not whatever. And up until that point, he had been pretty okay at just letting them, change the subject. And he knew, like his political instinct knew, no, this is the hill I'm dying on. This is the hill I'm dying on, and I'm not letting them change the subject. And he fought back and he fought back. And my husband was sitting next to me. We were watching it. And I started hitting his arm like this. And I said, this guy's going to be president of the United States. You mark my words. He's going to be our president. And my husband is, he's a little bit political, but he was like, oh my God, what just happened? And I said, no, it was such a brilliant move. And I think that to what Kay said, and I'm going to make it about Boston because Sean, I know that's why you have me here. I remember,
100%.
And I might have said this before. I actually might have said this the last time I was on. But my mom had one time said to me about Tom Brady, like, you don't understand what you're watching. You're watching this dynasty and you're cognizant of it. And you should really appreciate it because there's people who go 40 years and they don't see anything like it. And here you are watching the greatest to ever do it. And I say that to people who aren't interested in politics. I'm like, forget where you stand on it. What we're seeing here with this Trump administration, what we're seeing here with Donald Trump himself is unlike anything we're going to see again. And just to go to the part about Marco Rubio, which has me thinking now, Marco Rubio says, I think J.D. Vance would be a good nominee. I think that's very rare in a political party. I think it speaks to something that's happening where you have these guys who are suddenly more interested in continuing the succession and continuing the winning as opposed to advancing their own presidential aspirations. And I think that actually is a key difference with the Democrat Party, because what you have there is you have all of these people who refuse to change gears or refuse to course correct in order to better the party because they're benefiting individually from being wackadoos. And so it's this maturity that we're seeing from the right that we haven't always had. And so maybe this time around, people get together and they go, hey, I've always wanted to be president, but I think our best shot is actually with this person. And they step aside and they clear the way, which would be incredibly refreshing for the American people.
That's so well said. The funny thing is, you saw the president at the end say, well, there's some other people in the audience. And it was Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, Kristi Noem, the Secretary. And I got to be honest with you, Grace. I thought to myself, you put those two on a ticket together, it's game, set, match. Like, you can't compete with Rubio Vance. And that's the thing. But I want to segue to what's at stake. Kay's touching on this, like from the right side, how important it is to advance the MAGA America First agenda for at least a generation. But I saw a clip this week that reminded me what's really at stake and the lengths to which the Democrats will go to for power. Because at the end of the day, and this touches on what Grace said, these guys are starting to line up to say, it's not about me anymore. It's actually about the issues and the movement. But James Carville was doing a podcast with Al Hunt, formerly of Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal and whatever. And he talks about how they're out there trying to save democracy. But I want to play for you what they're willing to do to, quote, save democracy. Take a listen.
They are just going to have to unilaterally add Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia states. They're going to have to, the Constitution gives Congress power over federal elections. I don't think they can redistrict, but they're things they're going to do. They're going to have to do it. They're just going to have to do it. And they may have to expand the court to 13 members. Any of those things in isolation, I would be skeptical about. I would be cautious about. I would say, well, I don't know if that's the greatest idea in the world. You're opening Pandora's box, or all kinds of things. If you want to save democracy, I think you got to do all of those things, because we just are moving further and further away from being anything close to democracy.
Okay, think about what he just said. Okay, we need to make D.C. a state, Puerto Rico a state, because let's face it, it's not about voting rights. It's about making sure that you have additional U.S. senators, 2 for D.C., 2 for Puerto Rico. I question the Puerto Rico, but that's neither here nor there. Federalize elections and expand the court. That's what that's how. I mean, by the way, it is ironic that in the pursuit of saving democracy, you undermine all the institutions to save democracy.
Yeah.
But, Kay, I think this gets to your point, though. If we need to understand how desperate they are to retain power.
Well, yeah, they're desperate to retain power because that's how they make money and that's how they maintain their celebrity. Like, these are not politicians. These are just really very unattractive celebrities who really desperately need that money. And it's, it's our money. Like, I pay taxes. I think sorry, I just got to ask the panel here, what part of democracy actually needs saving? Like, what part of democracy is actually under threat? And explain it to me like I'm 5. Because when I lived in a blue state, they were sending me ballots that I never signed because I understand the law. So from what my lived experience is, they're the ones who are messing with democracy and, rigging elections, if you want to put it that way. I think that's a whole other conversation we could take hours to discuss. But yeah, explain it to me like I'm 5, guys. Like, I'm not from this country, but what part of democracy is under threat?
How about this? I'll explain it to you like you're any age. The answer is it's not. I mean, that's why this is such a joke, and it's becoming the new talking point. That's the thing, is that their democracy is working. We vote. The court has been ruling on things. That's democracy. That's a republic government.
And what is Donald Trump, if anything but a deregulator? He is the anti-authoritarian, as a matter of fact. He has never been, I don't think we've enjoyed a president who's done more to tear down the barriers to progress and growth and development, putting more money back in citizens' pockets, encouraging business to come back here and grow and hire, canceling the idea of government taxpayer-funded broadcasting, for heaven's sakes. Let it go back to market-based. I mean, there's never been more freedom of speech in the country. We're not propping up entities through these NGOs with taxpayer money anymore. Doge has reclaimed and clawed back a lot of our money, or at least pointed out where it's being fraudulently spent. We're not engaging in foreign wars. This president is all about freedom and self-improvement and self-growth and decentralizing Washington, D.C. He's not amassing power for himself. He's the worst authoritarian there ever was, if that's what he is. I'll tell you that.
That was so well put. I love that. I want to get that tattooed on me, Chris. Like, that was brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Because that's what I've been seeing. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to look at the social math here, and everything that you guys just described is what I've been seeing. This is another reason why I'm just I just feel really bad for anyone that listens to folks like James Carville and actually believes them. Like, can you imagine how small and just how niche their communities must be? They must not talk to any humans outside of the 3 people that live within their HOAs. To ever believe this stuff. And I think it's sad. I'm just glad it's mostly way older people, and younger people are just no, I'm good. We see the forest for the trees here, guys, except for, all those ones who are screaming about Sydney Sweeney, but they're probably too fat of the polls anyway, so who cares?
But also the thing about democracy is okay, so essentially what they're saying and what they have been saying is we need to kill democracy in order to save it because it's not serving us in the way we want. And if you sub out democracy, whenever they're talking about democracy, for our power, Democrat power, everything makes sense. It's we need to do whatever we can to retain power at all costs. And I think what really scares them is they see the polls, they see the lack of traction. They see how, as you just pointed out, young people are really turned off by this party and are headed in a different direction. They see this MAGA revolution and they're afraid that if they don't do something drastic, they're never going to get back in there. And to democracy's credit, like, she's a tough old biddy. Like, they keep talking about her. How insulted would you be if someone was talking about you like that? Anytime something wasn't perfect or something didn't go your way, democracy, she's going to have a meltdown. She's going to freak out. It's like, she's been here for a while and she's doing pretty well for herself. So give democracy a little credit. She can withstand some of your temper tantrums.
No, but and Sean, just look at what this lunatic that's running for mayor in New York. Now, you want to talk authoritarian? He's literally suggesting centralized government everything. That's authoritarianism.
Oh, and you just gave my column for Friday, I think.
Grace just said it. All they ever offer is give us the power, give us the power, give us the power. Not solutions. We don't want to win you over. We've got nothing to sell you. We can't win your vote or earn it. We just want to take the power and trust us. It's the worst. And Beto O'Rourke even talks about it down in Texas. He just said last week some crazy thing like, we've got to step it up to take the power back. Jasmine Crockett, their lust for how do we seize the controls of power is all that moves them.
But that's it. And that's the key thing to everything. It's all about them and their agenda. I mean, each of you guys is making such great points because to them, retaining power is all that matters. And that anything that undermines that ability to maintain power is an attack on democracy, which is just that's their code word for us having power. But the other thing that was interesting to me this week is we had a big shakeup in the media landscape, right? So Terry Moran comes out. He was that fired ABC person. He says, are we biased, meaning the media and ABC? And he wrote, yes, almost inadvertently, I'd say ABC News has the same problem so many leading cultural institutions do in America, a lack of viewpoint diversity. And we saw this with Stephen Colbert, where he alienates half the audience and they finally say, hey, we're going to go. There's now rumors Howard Stern's getting axed. There's talk about more late night shows getting axed. It's all starting to crumble, Kay. All of their institutions, this power base that they had, as soon as capitalism actually was allowed to occur, meaning do these guys bring in an audience? Do people subscribe? It's crumbling before their eyes. The power is going away because market forces are now starting to come to bear and they're losing it. And I think this is wonderful watching it all crumble.
Oh, I think it's absolutely beautiful. Like, I thought the big tell for me was when I learned how few viewers these guys actually get. So I used to write for a YouTube show called The Y-Files, which is all about different crazy conspiracy theories and like aliens and like all the ancient mysteries of the world, right? They could guarantee over 1 million views in the first 12 hours of posting a video just on YouTube, right? Like absolutely insane numbers. And I realized about halfway through working for these guys, I was like, oh yeah, it's because people on our side and people like that are just far more trustworthy. It's because they think like they don't treat us. And like, Sean, you're the sort of like epitome of this. You don't treat your audience like they're a bunch of idiots who need to be lectured to. You sit and hang out as if you're friends with and you pretty much are, like friends with everyone that's listening to you. Like it's the sort of George Bush effect, right? Like he won because everyone wanted to go hang out with him and go sit down the pub and go chill with a cool guy like George Bush. And that's, I think, one of the most amazing things about American culture is it doesn't matter how much power you try to grab, as you guys so brilliantly put, like Grace, that was just, again, magically put. I'm going to steal that. But I think that there's this beautiful thing about Americans that doesn't happen like literally anywhere else in the world, where anyone who tries to take power from you, you'll just sit back and just go, no, we're not doing that. And so when you see people like, Stephen Colbert, who, I mean, let's be honest, like he was never actually funny. When you see his numbers tanking, it's because everyone sees that he's part of that corporate Democrat oligarchy, like machine that's pretty much all funded by like the George Soroses of the world, who want to see an end to America, which is not what Americans want. Like it's literally that simple. Like Americans don't want it. They don't trust it. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. Like, again, going back to the sort of taxpayer funded, like PBS and NPR, if people wanted that, they would have paid for it and they'd be able to survive without all of our money going towards it. So I don't
100%.
know. Like, again, the social math is absolutely mathing for me right now. And I can't wait to see all of these guys just disappear into insignificance, because we're in the era of the podcast. We're in the era of like MAGA Republican, like, let's save America. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. I don't know.
I love it. All right, I want to do a quick round of predictions before we get into winners and losers. So just give me a quick, response to each of these. Big talk coming out of the White House, Putin-Trump summit. Do you think it actually happens, Grace Curley? Yes or no?
No.
No. Okay, Kay, yes or no?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. It has to happen. I pray it's going to happen.
Okay, Chris DeGaulle?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going yes as well. So Grace Curley could be the big Powerball winner here. All right, next thing. If you had to guess, based on the landscape that I described, Colbert's out, Howard Stern likely out, Terry Moran out at ABC, who is the next major person in the media landscape to fall, Grace Curley?
I guess the easy one, because Trump keeps saying it, is Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Fallon's having Greg Gutfeld on this week, I think. And so it seems like he's picking up he's reading the tea leaves. Maybe he's adjusting. So I'm going to say Jimmy Kimmel, but it's really an aspirational vote, because I would love to see that happen more so than, an actual prediction, but I'll go Kimmel.
All right, Stegall, who do you got?
I'm going to go with one of the morning shows, those network top-heavy morning shows. It's got to be a George Stephanopoulos type, I think.
All right, here. I'm going to jump in before Kay answers. Actually, Kay, give me yours, and then I don't want to, in case you had it, I don't want to steal it.
Oh, mine's aspirational too, but I'm hoping for The View. Like, let's just be done with that.
Oh, whoa! All right, to riff off, I love that one. That's actually great. That's got to cost a ton of money. You think Colbert costs money? They've got to be making a bunch of money. I actually think, and I'm just saying this because I was thinking about some contractual stuff that's going on, big stuff at Paramount. Apparently, I hear Gayle King might be out at CBS Morning, so that's an interesting one. All right, two more quick ones, and then I'll do winners and losers. Net seats, and I know this is wonky, but there's a lot of talk about redistricting this week. You got Texas, Ohio, potentially Missouri, New Hampshire, a lot on the Republican side, Dems saying that they might run some seats. If you had to just give me a number, how many seats do Republicans net pick up in this redistricting ploy that they're trying to enact? Okay, so 0 to 50, I don't know. Chris, how many do you think Republicans pick up?
7.
Grace?
I'm going to go, I'm going to do Price is Right. I'm going to go 8.
Where's that yodeling guy?
By the way, I want to know, Price, okay, interesting angle on that Price is Right one. Kay, give me a number.
I don't understand this issue at all, so I'm going to go with Grace, because now I'm thinking she was right about Russia. So I'm going to go with 8.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you this. I'm going Price is Right, which is you want to go low so you don't go over. I'm going 1, because I think that'll give me between 1 and 7 if you actually are playing Price is Right rules. Grace has to go 8 or higher. Anyway, that's my take on this. I think Republicans are talking a good game. I think that they're going to lack the political will. One last thing. Do we release the Ghislaine Maxwell transcripts, Grace Curley? Do they come out from that meeting that she had with Tom Blanche?
Yes. I think the White House is feeling the pressure here. I think Dan Bongino's been very frustrated. He thinks he's losing credibility with, so many of the people that really respect him and have listened to him for so long. I think that they release them.
Okay. Kay?
Yeah, piggybacking off that, they have to release them. Like, if they don't, I dread to think what's going to happen next year in the midterms.
Chris DeGaulle?
They will, but no one will believe them. And I wish they'd listen to me and just do an hours-long press conference and take every question. Just
Team Stegall. I'm on Team Stegall. Just get this over with. Stop the drip, drip, drip. All right, let's run through winners and losers. Kay Smythe, you're new. Give me who you thought had a good week, won the week this week.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to steal your idea from before we came on it. It's got to be Sydney Sweeney, right? Let's go. Let's go. Sydney Sweeney.
All right. Who lost the week, Kay?
Oh, just everyone that still votes Democrat.
All right, Chris DeGaulle, who won the week?
Yeah, American Eagle. That's a bank off of the Sydney Sweeney, because that's a company whose stock, it literally went up because Trump just said, "Hey, she's one of us." I mean, that's a great corporate story.
All right, who lost?
Elizabeth Warren, who ran to that lunatic in New York and said, hey, this is what we ought to do, start controlling grocery stores with the government. I don't know what she just did, but she killed herself politically as far as
actually, I thought you were talking about the fall that she took in the Senate. She literally plopped all over the place. So
a literal and figurative political fall, yes.
All right, Grace Curley.
Okay, so everyone has stolen all of mine, so I'm just, I'm going here with what I can find. I'm gonna say winner is, this is hard. See, now I don't have anyone. I'm going to say winner's Donald Trump, because that's always a good bet. You saw the look on his face when Tim Cook was explaining where the phone parts were made. He had that smirk on his face. He seemed to be loving his little jaunt on the rooftop. He got those Olympic medals and he said, can I say I won these athletically? So he seems to not only be having a really successful week, but a really fun week where he's enjoying himself. Loser, I'm going to say Howard Stern, because a lot of people are this week reminiscing. I get all these people who are telling me, you don't understand. He used to be a truth teller. He used to be a rebel. He used to be the great one. And I went back and watched the interview he did with Joe Biden. And my God, the slobbering wet kisses this man was giving Joe Biden. But he was the one who made Joe Biden confirm that he would debate Trump. So in some ways, he's also kind of my winner of the week, because who knows where we would be about that.
I'll tell you, by the way, we didn't even get to Trump on the roof, but like this week, Grace, Mark Halperin says this all the time on the morning meeting, that Trump is the greatest television producer. You think about those moments, the Tim Apple thing, he's handing him that thing, the Olympic medals that he pulls out from '84 after the guys are visiting him on the LA Olympic Committee, and then him up on the roof. And I got a call from a prominent politician the other day. He said, what is he doing up on the roof? And I go, making news. And that's what he did. Everybody made news. All right, I've got an irreverent winner this week. This is the first time I've ever probably gone a little, but there is something that I've been noticing on Instagram that I keep getting fed, that I love, that I think is funny as heck, and it's these baby memes. And this is like the most thing that I've ever done. But just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about, like I get fed these every day and I can't help but laugh and put a smile on my face. Let me play one for you and show you what I'm talking about.
If Texas redrawing their congressional map would get you 5 safe red seats, means that California, New York, Illinois, and Maryland are all going to redraw their maps to add safe.
Well, they'll do it anyway.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, they'll do it anyway. Why? If we stop over there, they would have done it anyway. Look, a lot of these states, I watched this morning as Democrats are complaining, and they're complaining from states where they've done it, like in Illinois, like in Massachusetts. I watched this lunatic, Pocahontas. She's a total lunatic. I don't know what she's on. She's all jumping up and down like I've never seen anything like it, talking about supporting the communist mayor.
All right. You get the point there. But I'm telling you, if you're watching, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, go over to YouTube or Rumble, watch this.
JB Pritzker's the only guy whose face is not thinned out since being a baby, by the way. Right. He looked exactly the same.
But I'll tell you, I see these ones pop up with like Joe Rogan talking to Theo Vaughn, and I cannot help every time. I literally was almost like, I don't know if I can put this in the show or not, but I laughed so hard between these and the big sheriffs that say, if you do this in this county, you're going to jail. And it's like, if you don't give a wave after someone lets you in on traffic, you're going to jail. Like, those are the 2 memes on the internet right now I cannot get enough of. All right, my loser of the week is Democrats on redistricting. They are blowing this big time. They are trying to act like, this goes back to our theme about dying in democracy. Grow up. You guys started this. This is politics. You just now lost the upper hand. You're the big losers of the week. Guys, I always love the panels. It's my favorite show of the week just because of the discussion that we have. You guys brought it. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, big show. Tyler Pager will talk about that book on Biden's decline, plus Ken Cuccinelli to talk about all things redistricting and the impact that Donald Trump's talk about the census could have on it. So you're going to love it. Plus, I think Christelle gave me my idea for tomorrow's newsletter on what we need to talk about democracy and it dying and not really. Anyway, you can go to SeanSpicer.com to sign up for that. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.